Good morning. Please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join me in welcoming Andrew with today's announcements.
Good morning, everyone. Today is Tuesday, February 11th, and it is a white day. A reminder that tomorrow will be a delay start schedule to allow for faculty professional development in the morning. There will be no morning advisory meetings. Please report directly to your A block class for 10 a.m. Vermont seniors, the deadline for VSAC scholarships is tomorrow, Wednesday, February 12th. If you have applied for a VSAC scholarship or plan to apply, please check in with Mrs. LaBounty before the deadline. The deadline to sign up for next year's free driver's ed class is tomorrow, Wednesday, February 12th at 3 p.m. If you have not already signed up, please do so with your guidance counselor or Mrs. LaBounty. Don't miss the Winter One Act Festival this Thursday, February 13th from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. in the Black Box. Come enjoy a free night of full music, improv, and short plays, all student-directed and produced. We ask you to come, support your peers, and enjoy some incredible talent. See you there. The Outing Club will go to North Country Climbing Center today after school. Meet at the front lobby of the Fieldhouse at 3:10 for a 3:15 departure. Resident students, this activity counts as your afternoon activity if you are interested. Sign up in the student life and see Mr. Holden for details. The fashion and design classes are still accepting applications from prospective runway models. Go to Morse 201 after school today and Wednesday, scan the QR code, or use the link to fill out the survey, then check in with Mrs. Darling. That's today and tomorrow until 4:15 in Morse 201. Congratulations to the belated January winners of Chef B's Random Acts of Kindness. Seniors, Miss Angel Advisory. Juniors, Mr. Arain's Advisory. And sophomores, the Ryan Harabi Advisory. And for the ninth graders, Mr. Deming's Advisory. We also have winners for February's Random Act of Kindness. Seniors, Mr. Bugby's Advisory. Juniors, Mrs. Deedham's Advisory. Sophomores, Mr. Camilio's Advisory. And ninth graders, Miss Anson's Advisory. Advisors, plan to pick up your box of goodies after 7 a.m. on Friday morning in Chef B's kitchen. Today we have JV and varsity boys basketball at Mount Mansfield at 5:30 and 7. Please dismiss the team at 2:30. And JVB girls basketball home versus Thetford at 7. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you, Andrew. We do have a few late announcements this morning. This past weekend, the Academy's Model United Nations Club hosted a conference with students from across Vermont. Academy students chose the committee topics, prepared background guides, and then chaired the committee's discussions and deliberations. Congratulations are in order for several of our students. First, the committee chairpersons, Orleans German, Zach Alamadine, Alia Hale, Thaddeus Loader, and Tae-Woo Park. Congratulations also to 3 Academy students who earned recognition for their effective performance as delegates. Those students are Poppy Shattuck, Jonah Razor, and Phoebe Dunn. Congratulations. At the Alpine race at Burke Mountain yesterday, Andrew Gorman won the boys race with 4 other SJA boys in the top 15. Zach Alamadine in 7th, Griffin Nisley 14th, and Merrick Williams 15th. The girls were led by Macy Moore placing 4th, followed by Ace Irwin 6th, Elizabeth Lopes 14th, and Aaliyah Davis 18th. Congratulations to our Alpine team. And last night, the varsity girls basketball team beat Rice by a score of 65-18. The toppers had a well-balanced attack led by Cassidy Kittredge with 15, Adriana Heaver with 14, and both Kyra Nelson and Addie Ely with 9 points each. The JV team also beat Rice 38-13. Leading the way on the offense was Aubrey Fontaine and Madison Biotti, each with 7 points. Congratulations to girls basketball. This morning, I want to congratulate you on your spirited, joy-filled days of Winter Carnival. Yesterday was about celebrating the major events and overall wins, and today is a moment that I want to celebrate with you as students, to express some deep appreciation, but not always acknowledged work of the adults who make special events like Winter Carnival possible. We're blessed that we have advisors who show up in costume or theme or class color to be part of the magic. They sign up to support you all in readying the banner and finding that very important fine line in your skits. We are blessed to have adults who make their respective classes make sure their respective classes dance-off entry isn't simply an interpretive dance in the moment. Please join me in acknowledging and celebrating your advisors who bring their expertise, their patience, and their joy to their work with you on special days like Winter Carnival and on the average Tuesday in February. Thank you to our community of advisors. And alongside thanking advisors, I want to take a minute too to thank another special group of people that I'm really privileged to work with. Miss Annie Angel, Miss Katie Smith, Mr. O'Brien, Mr. Dusso, and Miss Huntington. Their camaraderie, their healthy rivalry is really something special. As much as they love besting one another, what they really love is seeing each of you shine in your own unique ways. I don't want all of the cliches to fall short, so I will just say, I owe a tremendous debt to our class deans for their dedication to you, to the Academy, and to joy and fun. Please join me in thanking them for all the visible and invisible work that each of them do. And this morning, it's my privilege to welcome a guest to chapel. I'm excited that we have Mr. Quinn here this morning. It's a privilege to learn our collective story from him as a seasoned chapel speaker. He's a person who helps us know history as a rich, textured, sometimes difficult imperative. Please help me welcome the 2021 State History Teacher of the Year, Mr. Emmett Quinn.
Good morning. My name is Mr. Quinn. I teach AP African American Studies in the Social Studies Department, and I'm here in honor of Black History Month. Black history is foundational to American history, and today I want to talk to you about one of my favorite civil rights movement leaders, Asa Philip Randolph. He's the oldest person up there, sitting right down there in the middle. His work throughout the early 20th century laid the foundation for the victories of the civil rights movement. Other younger leaders, like King, called him Chief, unironically. Describing Randolph years later, John Lewis, the young man right up to his right there, or I guess to you it's his left, sorry, said, long before people used the phrase, check your ego at the door, he didn't need to say that. There was so much respect, so much love just to be in his presence. I've said it many times. If he had been born another color, or maybe in another part of the world, he would have been president, prime minister. He was a natural leader, gifted, smart, and one of a kind. Without Randolph, there would have been no March on Washington. Without him, there would have been no I Have a Dream speech and so many fewer victories. Because of his work during a time when few thought that civil rights victories were even possible, he was able to teach people like King, like Wilkins and Lewis, how to bring people together to fight for racial equality. But none of this was obvious in his youth. A. Philip Randolph was born at a time that historians call the nadir of race relations, or sometimes just the nadir. That means the lowest point. In 1865, after a decades-long fight by activists and a civil war, slavery had come to an end. For a brief moment, we saw the beginnings of multiracial democracy here in the United States. There were black elected officials. There were the elimination of racist laws. There were opportunities for education and self-improvement and self-determination for both black and white people in the United States. But white supremacists saw these beginnings of racial equality as oppression to them. They waged the largest terrorist campaign in the history of the United States, murdering thousands of black people and their allies, violently overthrowing democratically elected governments, and instituting single-party minority rule in states in the South. White liberals pushed back against this for a while, but eventually gave up and abandoned their black allies. By the time Randolph was your age, there was only one high school in his entire home state that educated black people. Segregation was the law of the land. In practice, black people no longer had equal protection under that the Constitution guarantees us all. And in the South, they had been reduced to the condition of slavery in all but name. It's easy to see his early life as a string of failures. He tried a career as an actor and failed. He started a newspaper. That failed. He ran for office twice, lost twice. He formed a black labor union. It was destroyed by other union leaders who were also white supremacists. But then he formed another union, had some success, a failure, rebuilt, won, kept working, won bigger victories. For me, these are the central lessons of Randolph's life. None of us know where in the arc of history we are born. None of us get to choose, but we can choose how we live. We can choose what we build, and we can choose the futures that we imagine. It is always within our power to build the beloved community we need, and we are stronger together than alone. Randolph is most known as the president of the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters. Before the age of commercial air travel, trains with sleeping cars were the preferred mode of long-distance travel for those who could afford it. The Pullman porters were black men who served white passengers, carrying their bags, serving their meals, making their beds like that man is doing there, attending to any and all of their needs during their trip. The Pullman Company was the largest single employer of black people in the United States at that time. And these porters worked very long hours for low pay, and they weren't eligible to be promoted to management, but when they had an incompetent manager, they were expected to do their manager's job. To be considered a full-time, porters needed to travel 11,000 miles per month, something that in the 1920s took about 400 hours. Do a little mental math right now. Porters referred to their job as learning how to sleep while standing. During the 12 years that it took Randolph and the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters to win better hours and conditions, they created networks of mutual aid for black communities throughout the country. They distributed newspapers throughout the South where they were banned, black newspapers. They built wealth within the black community, and they won the respect of the all-white unions that had dismantled the previous efforts of black people to organize. When they finally won their fight against the Pullman Company after 12 years, they won a 240-hour work month and higher wages, and Randolph emerged as a national civil rights leader. He used those networks that he had built to force the federal government to ban racial discrimination in employment during World War II, and later to force President Truman to follow through on President Roosevelt's promise to desegregate the U.S. military. One of the fundamental reasons that Randolph was able to do all of this was his wife, Lucille Campbell Green. Throughout their life together, she supported him. he never had to hold a job because of her entrepreneurship and labor. And because of that, he was less vulnerable to forms of pressure used against other leaders. Lucille Green and Asa Randolph met at socialist meetings in New York City in the 19-teens. Despite having been educated at Howard University, aka Black Harvard, the best living that Campbell could make for herself was running a hair salon. She studied with the famous Madam C.J. Walker, the first Black woman to be a self-made millionaire. And by the end of her life, Walker, here on the right, had educated over 20,000 Black women like Green in business. Black-owned businesses like Green's were vital to the struggle for Black equality. They kept Black wealth within the community. They created autonomy. They provided jobs for people where they couldn't be fired for their political beliefs, and they financially supported the civil rights movement. Green funded Randolph's socialist newspaper, The Messenger, and continued to work to support the cause throughout her life. And Randolph was chosen as the president of the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters specifically because he was not employed by the company and hence less vulnerable to their pressure. Without Green's entrepreneurship and labor, none of Randolph's work would have been possible. In the early 1950s, Randolph arranged for his longtime friend and ally, Bayard Rustin, here on the right, to teach a young, inexperienced minister in the middle of a bus boycott how to organize nonviolent political campaigns and form alliances with progressive white people. That, of course, was Martin Luther King Jr. there on the left. Randolph coordinated every national legislative campaign for every single piece of civil rights legislation from 1957 into 1970, including the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which ended legal segregation and the 1965 Voting Rights Act. Together, Rustin and Randolph organized the famous 1963 March on Washington. About 6 weeks before the march was scheduled to take place, a white supremacist senator named Strom Thurmond, who was actually still in the United States Senate when I was your age, tried to fracture their coalition and discredit the march. So Bayard Rustin was gay. All his allies knew this, but not only was being gay not widely accepted at the time, it was illegal in most places in the United States. Senator Thurmond not only outed Rustin publicly, but he read Rustin's 1953 arrest record for being gay into the congressional record, making it national news, literal front page of the New York Times. And many civil rights movement leaders wanted to do exactly what Senator Thurmond wanted them to do: abandon the march, ostracize Rustin. Randolph refused, and he persuaded them not to let their enemies divide them. Randolph appeared alone at a press conference to address the issue. For 10 minutes, he repeated the same statement: "We have absolute confidence in Bayard Rustin's ability and character, and he will continue to organize the march, which we know will be a great success." More than 50 reporters badgered him for more information, but he simply repeated that same sentence until the reporters became so impressed with his dignity and inner strength that they broke out in spontaneous applause for him. The march happened. It was the high watermark of the civil rights movement. It led directly to Black people's constitutionally protected equal protection under the law being actually, in practice, recognized almost 100 years after those rights had been explicitly written into the Constitution. When things seem unimaginable and out of control, I want you to remember Asa Philip Randolph. None of us know or get to choose where in the arc of history we are born, but we can choose how we live, what we build, and the futures that we imagine. It is always within our power to build the beloved community that we need. As Randolph said over and over again throughout his work, freedom is never granted, it is won. Justice is never given, it is extracted. And the struggle must be continuous, because freedom is never the final fact, but a continuing, evolving process to higher and higher levels of human, social, economic, political, and religious relationship. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Quinn. I want to call your attention back to something Mr. Quinn said. We can choose how we live, what we build, the futures we imagine. It is always within our power to build the beloved community that we need. What I'll offer you is that doing so involves work, understanding, and compassion. It requires intentional action and effort. Sometimes the community we build looks like Winter Carnival Chapel. As many students we've ever seen involved in dances and skits and improv activities, songwriting competitions, and floor hockey. And at other times, it looks like rolling up our metaphorical sleeves and not just saying that's not what we do here, but doing the work of being an upstander and not a bystander, of saying something when you hear an inappropriate statement or slur. For years, as an English teacher, I taught students that community was a noun. The person who stands here now, though, wants to challenge you to make community a verb, a word of action, vibrant, full, potent, a process of growing and changing and becoming. As you leave this morning, I invite you to consider how you would like to contribute to building such a community. I hope you have a really wonderful day. Faculty.